siblings started getting jobs. It was weird.
So, I just have like a couple questions. I just get a couple quotes from you, finding your opinions and stuff.
Sure.
So, have you ever seen like productions where they use like the video screens and like projectors and stuff as on stage?
I have. I've seen, actually, and most recently on Broadway.
Really?
Yeah, just a couple of weeks ago we were there. Big Fish, which unfortunately is closing, utilizes projections almost the entire show. Their set itself is, because it's set down south, it's all wood planks, and they're all run down, just sort of like the city is in the show. But they move back and forth and in and out, and they always project images of the places where they are on top of it. So you get the feel of the wood, but then you get the image on top of it to say, oh wow, we're in this town, or oh wow, we're in their bedroom, or oh, was trying to make it fantastical because he was a traveling salesman. His job was, he felt, not important. So he tried to make big stories for his son, when he came back. So his son would have pride in him and think his dad was cool.
Kind of like Death of a Salesman, sort of?
Kind of, yeah. Kind of. Yep, pretty much. But yeah, so the projections in that, and in that case, it was all video projection.
Okay.
And some of it moved even, which was pretty cool.
Like, how effective was it when, creating the set and like telling the story? Was it like?
I think video projections can be very helpful to any designer if they utilize it properly. Here in Big Fish, I think they utilized it properly, where instead of just giving us a video screen to project upon, they actually gave us a back wall that was textured, like I said, with all these wood planks and things, and something that is interesting in and of itself, and then project another image on top of that. I think that can be utilized very well. And in this case, in Big Fish, I thought it was utilized very well. Sometimes if it's, depending on the type of show, we've done shows, Reunion, for instance, one I know you saw, Reunion, where specifically it needed a projection screen so that you could follow along with things that happened in the Civil War and the pictures we were putting up there that went along with the show. That was very history-driven. You knew you were looking at a projection screen, so it needed to be a projection screen.
Yeah.
If you're utilizing it as part of the set, like they do, like I say in Big Fish, it's really cool to use the texture or whatever. Oh, excuse me. Who's calling me? Yes. Yes. She is. She just made it home. She's going to be on her way soon. Called about a death in Cheryl's family? Oh, no. It was... Yeah, it's probably her cousin or her aunt. I forget her name, so... Yep. Alright, bye. Alright, sorry. Oh, do you want to...
Oh, it's fine.
Here. Look at that. How about that? Would that work?
Yeah.
Cool.
There you go.
Awesome.
So, have you ever been in a show or like produced a show? Well, you said the
Reunion,
but like,
that has used projections or things like that. I've never actually been in one, but we currently at Meadowbrook have produced 3, right? Okay. Reunion from my hometown, and then we just did The Haunting of Hill House. And The Haunting of Hill House, the only thing we projected was we projected onto the Austrian curtain at the beginning of the show. We projected the whole house, the scary house. And since the curtain has all the drapery in it, it gave it this really eerie quality. And then we utilized that every time we brought the curtain up. We left the projection on a little longer onto the actual set before it went out and brought the lights up. So 3 of them that I've produced in the last 7 years have utilized projections, just not as big as, say, a Broadway production.
How'd you guys decide to use that?
Well, for Hill House, for The Haunting of Hill House, we knew that the whole story was going to be set inside this ancient mansion, and that they were going to talk a lot about it, but you weren't going to actually get to see a lot of the house because it all is set in this one room. There's one tiny scene that's set in another room. So I really wanted to make sure that we gave you a sense of how big the house was. So that answered our question, how do we do that? Well, let's drop the curtain and let's project the house, this eerie setting, as people walk in. And that'll give them a feel for how big this mansion actually is and what it looks like and how it's abandoned. And it actually, they say a picture tells 1,000 words. Well, that's what it did. It got everybody ready to see the show because it got them interested in, oh wow, this place has been abandoned. This must be this house we're talking about when the curtain comes up. And so with that one, that's how we did it. How we decided with Reunion, it's dictated in that show that you're gonna use slide projections in some way, shape, or form.
Like it's written in the script.
It's written in the script, and the company actually gives you some slides to use because they really want you, because that's historical. They want you to use slides from history, from the Civil War, and they'll tell you when to place them. Then they allow you to add others, which we did.
Okay.
And we ended up utilizing 3 projection screens and had to get the technology to link all of them together or to have them all run separately so that we could do place different pictures on different ones or have all the same pictures up on all of them, however we wanted to do, depending on what was going on in the show. And then From My Hometown is another one that they don't tell you have to use projections, but it goes through the history of R&B music.
Okay.
And so it suggests that if you utilize slides, it will help the audience along with the story because they'll remember seeing those people, those groups, and reliving that music. So we chose to do it. It didn't say you had to, but it suggested that you might want to. We chose to do it, and then it was fun researching all of those images to help tell the story. Yeah, to put them together.
Did you guys rent the equipment, or did you buy it?
For Reunion, we had to rent some of the equipment. By the time we got to From My Hometown, we had bought the equipment. Okay. Because if it's something that, as it seems to be a trend, it's going to be something we start utilizing more and more. We should have some of the equipment here. Plus, we do rent out our space, and sometimes people need a projector or whatever. It helps to have it on hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it terribly expensive, or was it a good investment?
It was a good investment. I would say we got a pretty good deal because we knew some people who had purchased a bunch of. We'd talked to other theaters and talked to people here at the university who have utilized projections, whether it just be in classrooms or whatnot. So we could find the best kind that we were going to get, that we should get. We could find out from them because they were knowledgeable, and then they hooked us up and put us in the right direction to get the stuff. I would say that it's paid for itself already.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Did you guys? How much trouble do you guys have setting up the equipment when you first got it, learning how to use it?
There is a learning curve, that is for sure. As with anything, there's a learning curve, but especially with projections and stuff, one of the things, I wouldn't say that we had a lot of trouble setting it up. We did end up getting a special program, QLab, for the Mac. We ended up getting a Mac computer. And one of the things we needed to make sure that we did was set up the computer so that nothing else was on it. No other programs are running, because if you're going to use it in the middle of the show, you don't want the screensaver to pop up in the middle of a show and have little bubbles floating around or whatever. So we had to go through all of those little things and troubleshoot what could happen in the middle of a show. And one of the things we did was we set the background of the computer to a generic slide so that if anything did happen, one that we were utilizing in the show, so that if anything did happen and somehow we got bumped out of the program, it would go back to that it resets to the wallpaper, so it would show, so for Reunion it was these Confederate flag and a regular Union flag. And so if, God forbid, the slideshow shuts down or times out or does something, it pops back to those flags, which the audience has seen a million times in the show.
So they won't think anything
So they won't think there's anything wrong. So we had a lot of that troubleshooting, and especially through tech. I think we've pretty much got a handle on it now. But of course, with everything, if we decide to utilize them in a higher capacity, we're going to have to learn all over again, a new way. Instead of just a slideshow or anything like that, if we actually want to start doing videos, and having it move and things like that, we're going to start all over with that learning curve. So now a lot of theaters are actually hiring people who just do projection design, which we haven't done yet, but I can see it coming down the line someday if that's the way we choose to go. Somebody who literally, some places have IT people, a lot of theaters have, projection design, and that's what they do. They design the projections and how they're going to work and how they're going to run, and then they let people like me who aren't skilled at it just direct. So, but yeah, so that we had some trouble, but I think all in all, I think we only had it freeze during reunion. I think we only had it freeze once during the show, and that failsafe helped us, and nobody knew, which was pretty cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, how, like the theater, Meadowbrook Theater's peers, how often are they using the projections in their productions?
Projections here in the southeast Michigan area, I haven't seen a lot of it recently. The only time I see it is literally if you're looking at some of the big tours that are coming through, things like that. I know I saw a little bit at Detroit Rep. I've seen a little bit at the Jet here and there, but I don't think it's caught on like it has in some of the bigger theaters here in this area.
Yeah.
And mainly it could be because of needing that extra person, hiring that extra person to handle all of that costs money, and so we're still able to do it, minimalistically, with what we know, with what our crew knows. We get all of us together in a think tank and said, I think I can do this. I think this works. But I think having sat down with most of the artistic directors and stuff in the area, I think there's a passion for it. I think there are some people that definitely want to do it or do more of it. I just think getting the equipment, because it's pricey, getting the people to run it is tricky. That's pricey. I think that's holding some of us back from doing a little bit of it. I don't think that's necessarily a problem though either, because I don't think that you want all projected stuff all of the time. I think there's a place for it. And it can be utilized really well, but with all things it could be utilized poorly as well. So I would like to think that the smaller theaters in this area are utilizing their creativity now. How do we do this huge show in this small space? And less about, wow, we need fancy bells and whistles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think we'll get there, but I think it'll be baby steps.
Okay.
I think they're going to see. I think right now there's a huge push with all of our theaters to go after that social media, and we've been, everybody's doing Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and whatever else goodness there is, and I think everybody's just sort of learning that now. So we're not comfortable yet with projections because we're out there doing we're going out into unfamiliar territory, but we're doing it with baby steps.
How I know you guys have a website and you have like a kind of like an old blog.
Yeah, we do have an old blog. Yeah.
How has that like affected people coming into your theater? Has that helped business or like?
We do the blog, which Casey updates every now and then. Yeah, it's a little bit old. And the website actually drives a lot of people to the theater. The Facebook, I'm not so sure. I'm not sure yet how, and we update that Facebook a couple times daily because you always going to be popping into somebody's feeds, and all this stuff. We try to keep the audience updated with what's going on. I can't say that we have any actual analytics on the Facebook as whether or not that has driven people, whether the Facebook has driven people to the theater. I can't tell you that. I know that people who have seen the shows are responding to the stuff on Facebook, which is good. That's good because either way you're opening up a dialogue.
Yeah.
You know, with your audience. But whenever we do like a coupon or something like that, we'll get a couple, but I'm not sure that it's reaching as many people as we'd like to think that it's reaching.
Yeah.
The same thing with the blog. We get a lot of wonderful responses from it from people who've seen it, but I'm not sure that people are utilizing it. I think what they're utilizing it for is just instead of a tool to get them to the theater, I think a lot of people are utilizing all of those after they've seen the show to learn more about what they just saw. Oh, wow, I really liked that actor. I want to learn more about them. Let's go to our blog where they interview those people instead of looking that up before they come in.
Okay.
And so we will see a lot of hits after the show is finished. You know, everybody going there. So I think that's interesting because a lot of times, I mean, our target at least is we want them to look at this stuff before they come in, so they're more educated about what they're seeing, so they get excited about coming in. And it doesn't seem to be working that way yet. We're actually having the opposite. But again, it's starting a relationship with your audience. It's starting a dialogue with them, and I think that that's important regardless of when it happens, whether it happens before or after. You know, our Twitter account we don't utilize all the time, but anytime we update something, it does go on there. We're on Foursquare. We've got so many different things happening. You can check in a million different ways to the theater, and people have, and they've started to. So what I think we now need to do is there are things that people like to do when they come here, like take pictures with the tiger that's outside. You know, things like that. I think we need to put a little sign that says, tag us on Facebook. You know, once you've taken your picture with the tiger, now tag us on Facebook, so that everybody who's out there doing it tags their picture that you know they're taking for Facebook, that they tag Meadowbrook Theater in it, so that more people
will see it,
find out about it, see it. You know, put the Twitter address on there so that the link to it, so that people know. Oh, post it up there. So I think you're going to see a lot more of that because we just need to continue to have that dialogue with the audience.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one of the ways that we're getting to do it is through the social media. You know.
How do you think like the business has changed like the most in just like the past like couple of years you've been working here?
Wow. The business all around business or just our business?
Both.
Every year you hear the theater is dying, right? That's what we all hear. I don't necessarily think that's true. I think people are exposed to it when they're very young. They go on field trips, they go with their parents, they go do whatever. When they get to college, they stop because they have to have 3 jobs to pay for school, and they don't have time, you know. And late 30s, they start to have a family, whatever. They start needing a date night. They start to come back, and they come back. The thing that I'm worried about is that there aren't a lot of field trips out there. There aren't a lot of schools now starting the kids off at the beginning of that circle, that cycle. So we've started a children's series to get the kids in on Saturday mornings, to expose them to theater, to get them exposed young. I think that you're seeing a lot of that going on right now throughout the entire business, really focusing on the young kids, getting them interested in what live theater is and doing it as early as you can, just so that they have a reference point for it later in life, and that they say, you know what I used to love doing? Sitting in a live theater and watching stuff on stage. So I think you're seeing a lot of that right now. Big focus on young people, while not trying to offend your loyal generation who are 50s to 70s who have been sitting in your audience forever. You know, I think with us specifically, or in Southeast Michigan, there's another push that is happening, which is letting the audience know that we're here for them that we are your theater. That's one thing we've had great success in, with having me out there doing curtain speeches every night and shaking people's hands and doing the raffle. Cheryl's out there doing the raffle. Is that, again, you start a dialogue with that audience, and you get them to know who's running the theater. Yeah, the artistic director, managing director, they're not this entity that is unreachable and untouchable. There are people just like you who are standing out here talking to you and getting your opinions and saying, we're here for you. What is it you'd like to see? What would you like to... So that we get the important feedback that we need from the audience. There's been a huge push for that recently. And even there have been a couple major surveys done in the Southeast Michigan region that have asked people, what they want to see, what they want out of a theater. And that friendly atmosphere is one of those things that people are looking for. They're really looking for that. So I think Meadowbrook has excelled at that early on. And now you find out that they had a wonderful thing on NPR about how Broadway theaters wish that they could do that. They actually could create that friendly atmosphere, that they could have that funny curtain speech, that they could have that, because all they get is people's phone numbers and addresses and a name. They don't get a relationship with their audience. There's nothing that makes their audience come back.
Yeah.
Which
tourists, so they just kind of come through.
They come in because they want to see that show, and then they leave and they never show up again. So Broadway producers are like, how do we do that? They're doing it regionally, but how can we do it? So that's why you found like Rock of Ages has a very funny curtain speech. Something that people will leave and talk about with their friends. Oh, you should hear the funny curtain speech that they do. So there is that push towards the young people and towards being that friendly atmosphere that we're here for you. You want to be at the theater because theater is engaging and starts conversations. And you still talk about it, a week from now at home. You think about something that happened in the show and you go, oh my gosh, I still can't believe that happened. So that's what we're trying to do. That's a couple of things that I've seen change big time over the last couple of years.
Do you think, as your online presence continues to grow, do you think that'll help get the young people to come and to see your stuff?
I hope that it will. One thing that we did, we have a dedicated person who's working on the Facebook page, and she does it constantly every day. She's updating that and keeping it in people's feeds. But I think something that also is going to bring them in is last year when we did Next to Normal. It was a big show about dysfunctional families and, bipolar disorder. Now, not everybody has bipolar disorder. But everyone thinks that their family is dysfunctional, which makes me think everyone's family is normal, right? But because of that, so many students came to that show because it was a big name that they knew about, that they felt they identified with. So I think part of it is we need to start finding out what it is they identify with, what it is that generation is identifying with, and put it on stage. I think we have to do that. Yes, I think the Facebook will help. I think the Twitter account and the blog and all of those things, I do think that they will help, and I think as it grows, and we encourage people to share things that we put on there, and we encourage people to post on there, I think, yes, it can't help but, help.
Yeah.
But I think we also have to continue to look for those important issues that kids are dealing with and make sure it's something that at least one show a season is going to be something that they can identify with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have to. Yeah.
How important or do you think the use of videos and live streams and online presences will be in the theatrical process in years to come? Do you think they'll become a bigger part of it? Or?
Oh, I think it's going to be huge. I do think it's going to be huge. When they toured, what was it, 15 years ago, they toured Starlight Express. And Andrew Lloyd Webber had changed it and made it very much for kids, like he had originally wanted it to be. And instead of, Starlight Express, they're all supposed to be on roller skates, and when they originally did it, there were ramps out in the audience, and there were all kinds of stuff. Well, what they had done was, instead of doing that, they were still on roller skates, but every time they did one of the races, they brought a giant screen down and everything flashed and it told the audience, put on your safety goggles, because this is dangerous, put on your safety goggles. Well, your safety goggles were things that they gave you when you walked in, which were 3D glasses that matched the set. And they brought a screen in, and they would start the race, and they would race off, and the rest of it was done on this huge screen. The rest of the race was, and stuff's flying at you, and everything. So in the middle of this musical, you're watching these 3D images come at you. And it was so amazing. And the kids that I was sitting with were just so in awe. I'm like, these kids are going to come back to theater because they're going to remember this. They're going to remember how cool that was. Something like The Woman in White, again, another Andrew Lloyd Webber, where the entire set was projected. And they had flowing waterfalls, and they had a train that came out, and you felt in the audience like it was going to hit you. All of those things are setting examples and setting trends and setting the bar for the use of projections. Because, of course, with the use of projections, you have to be able to light it properly as well, so that the lights don't interfere with the projections. So while they keep raising the bar, they keep inventing new ways of using the projections, which keeps inventing new technology for the projections. So I think it can't but become a big thing at some point. I think we saw 12 shows a couple weeks ago when I was in New York, and probably, I would say, a good 6 of them had a projected image of some sort in the show, which is pretty remarkable. It doesn't mean that it was all video and amazing, but
it's there.
But a projected image, because a lot of times, because you've seen it, instead of using just gobos, something that you could just throw a gel in and have and here's your whatever you drew on it, right? Whatever you cut out of it. Here's the shape. No, now you can get, like I said, bubbles and stars and whatever, and then they can move. Like in different colors all over the set while this person is standing there, instead of a stagnant image. So I think they're going to use it more and more. I think if they're smart, they'll use it more and more where the audience doesn't know they're using it.
I was talking to my dad about this, and he's getting pretty heated.
Yeah.
Because he's really against it because he thinks it takes away from some of the craftsmanship.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they'll have a problem trying to balance the two?
I do think there's a problem balancing the two. I do think that, again, if they're smart, they'll do it in a way where you don't know that you're watching an image. You're watching a projection. I think that's the best place to utilize them and to get the most bang for your buck, as an enhancer. You know what I mean? Enhance what you've already got there. Just like in Big Fish. Like I said, they put a texture up. They put these walls up. They put, and without that image, that show could have still run, because they had those wooden planks, and you'd still get that feel of a rundown Alabama town. But they enhanced it with the images, and I think that's as long as people remember that we're trying to enhance and not take away from the craftsmanship, from what we're already doing, then I think we'll be okay. But yes, I absolutely think there will be people out there who go, no, let's just do images of everything, just go for it. And I think that's where the problem will come, and it will be up to the audience to say, no, I don't really like that. I like the other. So it'll be left up to the audience. But I think artistic directors across the board will be very careful when utilizing it. I know we have. And making sure that there's a reason for it. And I think as long as you keep yourself in check or place those checks and balances, I think you'll be okay. I do. I have faith.
Cool.
But I could totally see Scott being upset with it too.
Because
it's true. But at the same time, wouldn't it be cool to see a huge show like Phantom of the Opera in a space like the Ringwald? In a place this size with projections? I mean, it would be cool. So there's a time and a place. And depending on what you're trying to do. What is the goal of doing this show? There's always a goal in doing a show. What is your goal? Is it just to entertain? Is it to educate? Is it to wow? Is it to, make them think? Is it, what is it? So you have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
when you're doing it. And then I think as long as you do that, you'll be fine. So that's me. But yeah, I could see your dad being so upset.
Because a lot of the shows that I've seen have been like really bad the way they've used it.
Yeah.
And like, or because I remember when my parents used to work at Wixpa, they'd used them in everything. And like they just have like they'd be like singing.
Used them because they had them.
Yeah.
Pretty much, right?
And I saw Schoolhouse Rock, and they'd have like the projection, and it'd have like the name of the song they're singing, and it would change, and then they'd show like a little cartoon or something, and at Avondale,
Mr. K?
Yeah, he's done like a couple of them where they've been like bad, and some of them like he's like tried, like he did Never Ending Story.
Okay.
And Henry was the boy.
Oh, jeez.
And then Grant.
Atreyu.
Grant was like not Atreyu.
Oh, he was the boy. The boy, Bastian.
Yeah, and Grant was like the body double because they wanted to do something where Henry ran off stage and like Grant would be there. And they did something with like, like there's the mirror. They had like Grant like off stage with like a camera in his face, and then like he would like move the same way Henry moved and be projected on this big screen.
Oh, jeez.
And it was a good idea, but like it didn't it would lag and like.
If you don't have the stuff to execute, if you don't have the technology to execute it, makes it very difficult.
Yeah.
And you saw Reunion. Your mom did that show, and they didn't take away from the production. Again, it enhanced, and if anything, it helped people understand what was going on, because it was all done with stories of the time period, people talking, and so because it wasn't written as a play, you know what I mean? Because it was written as, this is an excerpt from a journal, this is an excerpt from a newspaper, this is an excerpt, and we're going to string them all together. So in order to give people an understanding of what's going on, we're going to put these images out, And I think in a situation like that, it helped immensely. But we weren't trying to create scenery.
Yeah. I think that's what my dad's afraid of the most, just like replacing scenery.
Right.
Projections.
And like I said, like even when we did the Hill House thing, the texture from the Austrian curtain enhanced that image that we were putting up there. If we'd put a flat image, it just wouldn't have worked right. It just wouldn't have. It would have looked like this flat, whatever. But because the Austrian kind of moves, there's like wind, there's wind backstage and stuff like that, and all the little pockets of fabric. It sort of distorts the image a little bit and everything, and it kind of makes it unsettling as you walk in. So I am all about texture. If you're going to do it, do it with the texture, because it makes it cooler. And you're designing scenery that way. You're not just designing a flat wall so that I can put a projection on it. That's all.
Cool.
Cool. Does that help?
Yeah, you helped me immensely.